I'll just play the intro song, and then we can go ahead and since we're recording now, they can get that piece out that needs to be gotten out. So let me see where we at. Okay, they'll just edit this part out. Okay, play the song. Here we go. What's up? What's up? What's up? You are listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. This is your girl, Rachel Hill, the First Lady of Sports, and I have Cleveland Kate with me today. Cleveland Kate, Happy New Year to you. How are
Happy
you
New
doing?
Year. Happy New
Yeah,
Year. I'm great.
it's so good to see your beautiful face. I'm so happy.
I haven't seen you since last year.
I know, but that was like early December of last year.
It
So,
was. It was
yeah,
after, I know it was after Ohio State, Michigan. I think it was even after the Big Ten championship game.
yeah.
And I remember we talked then, we were hoping Indiana would go on a run. If the Buckeyes couldn't catch them in the playoffs, that they'd go on a run, and they did.
Yeah, they literally went on a run. And we have our special guest with us today, Miss Cameron Justice of News Channel 5. If you like her on Channel 5, you're going to like her here on Her in the Huddle today. Super excited to have her with us. So I just started telling my Indiana story. So Indiana won a national championship. So I think that the playoffs for the NFL, the first week was the best week, I think. That was the week where all the games ended close, right? Was that the first week?
Yeah, they were just on
For like
stupid days of the
points?
week. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. They were on too many days of the week.
yeah. So so the college football season was kind of great as well too. The run that Indiana had, that they had, Ohio State was not able to beat Miami, but I said at least we can say that Ohio State lost to both of the teams that played in the national championship. So not bad. We didn't have a random loss. We didn't lose to Michigan or
Yeah.
anything like that. So I went to IU. One of my best friends is an IU alum. So our dream, I guess, we thought we were going to be able to do this, is watch the game on campus, run out when Indiana ran out, because I thought the Indiana fans, because I thought that Indiana was going to win prior to this game. So we were going to be outside, lighting couches on fire, all this stuff, y'all. We had it planned. So before we left, a couple days before we left, she called the bar, which is called Nick's. It's his famous bar, I guess, or whatever in IU. So they told her, be there 3 to 4 hours before the game. I said, no. I said, be there at 11 a.m. when it opens. We wake up, she gets video. People are in line at 4:30 a.m. So, all right, we messed up on that part. So we had a leisurely day somehow. I'm always trying to, do stuff. I'm kind of, my anxiety and stuff won't let me be great sometimes. So we left our hotel at about 3 o'clock. So got there got there at about 3 o'clock because the hotel was like in the same town. So we waited 3 hours to get a table. It was one table in front of us, and then it was us. Nobody was moving from these tables. So our hotel was across the street. So it was 6 o'clock. There was no movement for 3 hours, and it was freezing there like it was freezing here. So we got an Uber. We went back to the hotel, went to Texas Longhorn, and ate. And there was a lot of people there rooting for, IU, of course. We're still in Bloomington. So we go back to the hotel around the third quarter or whatever. And y'all, tell me why I fell asleep and missed the whole fourth quarter and woke up and found out who won.
No.
So we were not on campus. I didn't have any footage of me running with the college kids, climbing up poles or anything like that. We were asleep.
Because we're old now, Rachel.
I know. And I missed the rest of the game.
I stayed up and watched it. It was actually a really good game.
I heard.
But then Carson Beck did what Carson Beck does. The problem with the Miami Hurricanes is either Carson Beck will throw that interception at the worst possible time, or their head coach Mario will do something stupid. He'll call some stupid trick play and break everything. And I thought Carson had been playing really well, frankly, for how they finished the regular season. I argued that they shouldn't have even been in the playoffs. They weren't even one of the top two teams in the ACC. They didn't play in their own conference championship game, but they played a ton of ranked opponents during the season. And the last couple weeks of the season, and then all through the playoffs, Carson Beck was lights out. He was awesome. And my girl Lisa, who's down in Miami and is a graduate of the U, texted me and she's like, as long as Carson doesn't beat Carson, we'll be fine. And I'm like, you have just jinxed yourself. And damn, if that wasn't their last play of the season, their last offensive play of the season was that interception he threw. I feel bad for him, but I feel like he's what, a 5th, 6th, 8-year senior or something. He's been there. God, he's been there. Feels like he's been there forever. So they had a good run. They had a good run, but the Big Ten comes up big.
Keeping in the Big Ten 3 years in a row. SEC who?
Who? What?
SEC what? I don't know nothing about that, Cameron, because we're going to get to the Browns because we got you here to talk Browns. But, since I had to tell my story about how I was partying that night with the IU students, and that completely went wrong. What were your thoughts about the national championship game?
I thought it was an exciting game for sure. I was kind of on it, right? I love the parity. 2 teams that you wouldn't expect at the beginning of this season to have made it, and for IU to make school history. I love that. But I had like no real interest in who won. I think I kind of lean towards IU just because, do it for the first time kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Miami's coach, I don't really love those interviews. I don't know him as a person. But I was like, you know what? With that, I'll take the Hoosiers. So but I didn't really care, So, but I just wanted to see good football, and it was exciting. So that's all I could hope for. At this point, it's Big Ten. We love Big Ten, but I'm a MAC girl, and that will probably never happen. So, I'm
a MAC girl too. I went to Bowling Green. I was so excited when Harold Fannin Jr. came to town, even though the combine. So I cover the NFL for Archer Female. We do a podcast on Tuesdays. We do a college show on Wednesdays, and a couple of us. I go to the combine every year, and we went last year. And let me tell you, all of the big media people that were there that were asked, they all kept asking him if he wanted to come play in Cleveland because Bowling Green was so close to Cleveland. That was all they were asking him, and he was trying to be perfect. He's like, listen, I'll go wherever I go. I'll go where whoever takes me. I just want to get to the NFL. And then somebody was like, well, you're so close from Bowling Green. Are you a Browns fan? And he was like, well, actually, my family's Steeler fans. And I'm like, can we quit with it? I get
Browns fans now.
But we love him. He has played lights out this season. I've been very happy with the rookie class. They did a very nice job. Rachel and I complain all the time about Kevin and Andrew Berry, but we have a very nice draft last year and that very nice rookie class.
Rookies have been great. Rookies were great.
Yep.
Cameron, what's your MAC school?
Go Zips.
Oh, fear the Roo. My daughter went to Akron.
Your daughter went to the best school in the country.
Yep. Can't write Kent State.
The Miami Redhawks are getting a little action now because they ranked 25. They're undefeated. So their basketball is getting a little attention. I saw it on Sports Center. So go Miami, I guess.
That'll be good for them. But here's the thing: they can be undefeated, but it all comes down to what you do in the MAC tournament, and anything can happen in the MAC tournament. And I am always gonna say Akron over everything. But but that said, once the MAC tournament's over, then I'm all MAC. Like whoever comes out of that, I will. It's hard. Kent State as the rival school, it's hard because you're like, do you want them to win their first game of do you want them to do better than Akron has been able to do when they make it to the tournament? Oh, not really, but you are still. It's Northeast Ohio. It's MAC. Let's go.
Maction,
baby.
Yeah. So for Cameron, let's go ahead and get into this Cleveland Browns. Right now, this team has kind of just imploded. One of my questions for you was, coming into the season, was Kevin Stefanski on the hot seat?
I mean, I think naturally, when you come off of a season where you have 3 wins, the seat's warm at the very least. And so, I do think that, I don't know if it was necessarily the hot seat that that typically occurs, right? Where you're like, okay, like this coach is going to be fired. I think if the season had gone differently, if they had won some more of those games, or if moves were made, it might not have resulted in this. But when you win, 5 games is better than 3. So you had a better season than the year before, which is what you're aiming for. But then you have to look at some of those losses and look at that schedule, at the record, and think to yourself, how many games could have been won if there were maybe a little more accountability, if there were different decisions made, if different players were out there, personnel out there, if, special teams didn't give up back-to-back returns for touchdowns. Like, you can't have those things and then not have the accountability or any changes. And so I think that all kind of trickled into the decision to move on, because it's hard then to think that anything would be different in 2026. And you see it right now. I think there was maybe a differing of opinions on what was going wrong. I think for Kevin Stefanski, it felt less like the staff that they had, and more execution and maybe roster building, because you can see it right now in Atlanta. In his new opportunity, he brings Tommy Rees in as their offensive coordinator. If he thought that the offense's problems were coaching or scheme, then I don't know that Tommy Rees would be following him to Atlanta. I think that he was confident in what their scheme was and what their game plans were. It was maybe the talent that he had. I can't say that for sure, but that certainly feels what it appears to be with that move. But if you're the Browns, you're also thinking, when you move on from Kevin Stefanski, you must think that you've either got the right pieces or had some of the right pieces to create different outcomes. And it was coaching that, or at least, leadership accountability that led to some of those, instead of winning 8 or 9 games, which it felt like they had the ability to do. In some of those games that came down to a score, a play, a drive, a bad decision. And so I think that made the seat a little hotter, and it inevitably led to him on a new team, and the Browns looking for a new head coach.
Can you take Bubba Ventron with him too?
Please.
I don't think that Bubba Ventron. I have a very strong feeling that the Browns will have a new special teams coordinator in the installation of a new head coach.
Kate was over there praying.
I'm praying. I think so. I've been unhappy with Kevin. I mean, I think since Baker left, the quarterback room has been a mess. We know what the Deshaun deal did, and we know even this year, coming into this year with Flacco and Pickens and the Gabriel and Shador, and never knowing what you were going to get with Watson. I think he's used up the quarterback situation excuse train, but the coaching decisions, we talk a lot about some of the coaching decisions that I haven't been happy with, or the discipline, the lack of discipline, the pre-snap penalties. Ultimately for this year, I feel like what hurt him the most was the fact that the winner of the AFC North had 9 wins, that this division was up for grabs almost to the end of the year, that the Steelers, the Ravens, the Bengals all fell back. You ended up with 5. You get 3 more wins and you're competing for the division. And I think maybe that had something to do with it. If the Ravens had run away with the division, if Lamar had never gotten hurt and they'd run away with 12 wins, then they're going to use that same excuse train. But I think the fact that they all came back to where we were, I think that hurt him a lot, and they needed to make change. And I know Jimmy Haslam personally, from an outside of football situation, he is not ever going to admit that Deshaun deal was wrong. He will plant that flag forever. And that deal has set us back even farther than just the few years that we've been dealing with it. It's setting us back into the future. So I have my favorites for a replacement for Kevin. I'm very curious to know who your favorites are, or who you think the favorites are, but who you would like to see come in here and coach this team.
I think that there are 2 different versions of where the Browns can go with this. I think there is the safer version where, and I don't mean safer as in it would be a bad decision. I mean safer as in the risk just truly isn't as high because there is some familiarity. I think the less risky decision is to name Jim Schwartz the head coach. He is already respected in the locker room. There's buy-in from his players, especially on defense. And I don't think it would be very hard for the offense to be bought in because they watched what the defense did. And the defense really kept them in games longer than they should have in some situations throughout the season. So I think the buy-in is there. The respect is there. Experience is there. His head coaching stint the first time did not go well, but that happens in this league, as we know. And sometimes that second time around or third time, like sometimes it just takes a little experience, some downtime, some learning as a coordinator. So I think that is certainly a way the Browns could go if they're leaning more towards less risky, safer things already established. You've got Jim Schwartz in-house, and that certainly puts him at the top of the list. But also on the list, and I think it's two separate, they're all up here of their finalists and favorites, but it's which way do you want to go with it? And I think the other way is to go young and up and coming. And that is a little riskier, obviously, because there's not the track record. You don't have the experience. You don't know how these guys may handle adversity in terms of managing a 53-man roster practice squad. How do you handle an entire locker room? How do you handle coaches? Can you get the staff in here? That has not been established. And so that's a little riskier, but I think guys like Grant Udinski and Nate Shieldhouse are incredible candidates for the Browns if you're going young and up and coming, because they don't have the record of being a head coach or a leader, no, but what they do have is the ability to edge out some of the other teams because they're not on tape. Some of their things are on tape in terms of, like a Nate Shieldhouse, what he brings to the table in terms of being able to create offensively, to be able to throw some wrinkles in. A great fit, I think, for the Browns in the fact that we talk about the miscues and the pre-snap penalties. That comes with an understanding. When you have the pre-snap penalties and you need that accountability, what you don't then allow yourself to do is to have the pre-snap concepts that create an explosive offense. You don't have the motions, you don't have the different formations, because you have to simplify it to make sure that you don't get those penalties and you don't play behind the sticks. But Nate Shieldhouse is a genius when it comes to those pre-snap concepts. And I think that is what makes him a really good fit in that capacity. Grant Udinski has such a good grasp. You hear everybody talk about it. He has got such a good grasp on this game and his ability to not only understand it and create and be innovative. And he comes with all these new ideas, but he's also praised for his ability to break those ideas down and really implement them and get them to be understood by a team. And I think that's a huge part of this too, is you got to be able to have your guys understand exactly what you're looking for, especially if you're getting a little bit more creative, especially if you're trying to create new concepts. It has to be understood. So it's muscle memory. It's second nature. You don't have to think. You're able to play fast, because if you play fast and you understand it, that's how you create success. And I think Grant Udinski has the capability of teaching that. And so those three to me are at the top of the list. And I think it's like column A, column B, both up there. And then you just have to decide, if you're the Browns, how risky am I willing to get? And what can this future look like for the Browns if I go veteran, if I lean young? Can I keep Jim Schwartz? If I go young, can he still be the defensive coordinator? Is he willing to stick around and be here? Will I lose Jim Schwartz? And that might not necessarily be what they should lean on. It shouldn't just be, well, he'll leave if we don't make him head coach. You got to want that as a role on its own. But I think that they're set with three really strong candidates. And we already know that there's got to be some other names in the mix that haven't been out there yet, or that they maybe haven't considered for this round, because they just quite literally have to. But that doesn't mean that they weren't already considering them. So we'll have some other names in the mix, and I'm curious to know who that might be, because I think that could change this conversation too. That list might change once we know who is in consideration, not on this list that's already been interviewed.
Yeah, first I'll tell you, I wish there was a head coaching portal where they weren't allowed to talk to anybody until after the Super Bowl, because sometimes I worry looking at the past and how we've had all that coaching carousel here before Stefanski. I think a lot of the teams freak out and they worry and they try to get someone hired quick, and they don't wait until after the Super Bowl where you can talk to some of the guys that clearly have talent because they've got a team in the winning playoff games and they're going to the Super Bowl. I love the idea of Jim Schwartz taking over, but the key to that is going to be who he brings in as his offensive coordinator, because he is a defense-minded head coach, and so he's got to bring somebody in that can run the offense. My favorite name going into all this was Joe Brady, but I feel he's the offensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills. But I feel like once they let go of McDermott, he's probably the front runner for that Bills job. If he can get it, he's just going to stay there and do that. Grant Udinski, him and Shieldhouse both. I love them. I would have no problem with either of them. I have this much teeny tiny weeny concern about Grant being so young. My bigger concern with Grant is I feel like he's a perfect fit for the Pittsburgh job. We're going to have to play against him twice a year because he's from there. He's young. They've had 3 head coaches in my lifetime. They were all under 35 when they hired him, and they were there for 20 years. And I just feel like Udinski fits exactly what the Rooneys want in Pennsylvania. I tell Rachel all the time that I think from a head coaching perspective, whoever is our head coach, especially whoever ends up being our offensive coordinator, has to understand weather. Players can learn to play in weather. You can be born and raised in California. It won't take you long to learn and play in snow. 2 hours on a Wednesday afternoon in the snow, and you'll figure it out. But game planning, running the ball, understanding how to deal with what the weather throws at you, I think takes a little bit more when you're a coach and when you're planning. And both Udinski and Shieldhouse have experience. You know, I think it was Shieldhouse went to Illinois. He played college football in this weather. Udinski was at Minnesota. Like, they've both had experience either playing or coaching in cities where we have weather. So I know Rachel's always saying, yeah, but Kate, it's weather, because I'm always big on weather. And I have no problem with any of these candidates. I think they would all do a very nice job. And maybe we'd run the ball a little more. Kevin, run the ball, Kevin. I should make a shirt. We always say that. Run the ball, Kevin.
I have a hat that says run the damn ball.
Yes, exactly.
Well,
I have one that says she knows routes, but that's.
I believe in keeping it safe. I believe in going with Jim Schwartz as a head coach. You know, one of my things about these younger candidates is lack of experience. One of the things I've always hated when these younger coaches came in, such as Kevin, he wanted to call the plays. And I'm like, there's too many things you need to learn about the nuances of being a head coach and not be focused on calling plays during the game. You need to be focused on time management. Let your offensive coordinator take some of that off of you and call the plays. I'm like, I still don't know how, what's his name, Alex Van Pelt got fired and you don't do anything. So I'm still, concerned about that. But I'm sick of these first-time head coaches. Because one of the things is you have people dropping out of this interview process. And they need somebody who can change the culture. He's been in the culture for 3 years now. They need somebody who can change this culture because it's a toxic culture. It's not a great culture at all. And these players are assimilated to the toxic culture. They're trying to make things better. Jim Schwartz on the defensive side of the ball has made a lot of strides, and he's highly recommended. Denzel talked about how great of a head coach he would be. He has Myles Garrett endorsement. But the thing is, when you come here, it's not going to be that great these first 2 seasons because you have to completely rebuild your offense. You have to build your offensive line. You have to get some receivers in here. David and Joe.
Wide receivers. Can we draft some wide receivers?
Yeah, because David Njoku is pretty much going to be on his way out because you have a new tight end who's making all the plays that he can't make. And then we're dealing with injuries with him as well too. What did Bill Belichick say? Availability is reliability. And he's not been reliable, and he hasn't been consistent with his catching. So Harold Fannin, here's the keys to the kingdom. So, Cameron, I was one of the ones against firing Kevin Stefanski because I'm like, it's not going to make Jerry Jeudy catch any passes. It's not going to make the line block any better for him or anything like that. So,
I told you, Rachel, I said, then what's our plan B? If you're firing Kevin just to fire him because you need to make a change, that's fine. But then who are you going to bring in that's going to make Jerry Jeudy catch a football? That's going to fix the problems that we had on the field with execution. And I guess we're going to find out. I think Cleveland is not the most desirable job. Let's be honest about it. Of the 10 teams that were looking for coaches this offseason, we're not the most desirable job. There's a whole lot of things about the roster that's a hot mess, including our quarterback room. And I don't know if I like, Cameron, you spoke about Grant Udinski and his ability to talk to players and translate what he wants into things that they can understand. Will he be able to have the presence to command their respect day one? Or are they going to be a little standoff? And are we going to have to spend 2 or 3 years with that gelling, where I think Jim Schwartz brings that day one, that credibility from that experience? And so I don't mind an inexperienced coach for some of these teams. I just don't Cleveland if that's the right way to go.
Yeah, I think there's, there are pros and cons for both. I think that Cleveland, some of these teams obviously have pushed themselves to the top of the list for the head coaching search because some of these firings are just really unprecedented, right? McDermott fired. It kind of felt like not a huge surprise, but with the way that the Bills have just been consistently playoff teams and should be title contenders, and for the firing to come after what one play game-changing moment, feels like that was always going to be their plan to get rid of him if they didn't make the Super Bowl. But then you've got the Ravens again. Not a crazy surprise when you have a roster constructed the way that the Ravens have. When you have Lamar Jackson, and then you add Derrick Henry in the backfield, and the defense has taken some hits on the roster, but you still have. You have an offense that should be in a division that has obviously struggled. That doesn't really surprise me. Mike Tomlin has been on a hot seat without really being on a hot seat. And so for him to step away also doesn't surprise me, because it felt like those tensions were building. Things were just like, he had a winning record, and that's great that they were on top of the AFC North, but what have you done for me lately, league? And
why isn't Zach Taylor in that same conversation in Cincinnati?
I don't know.
Because I put him in that same boat that I put McDermott and Harbaugh and Tomlin. He has a roster, and they've done nothing with Joe Burrow in the 6 years that Taylor's been there. They've done nothing but underperform.
If you told me at the beginning of the season that the only coach in the AFC North that would still be here was Zach Taylor, I would have called you a liar. I would have been like, you're crazy. That's insane.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I mean, it's really because I think it's the price point. They don't want to pay somebody. They won't have to keep paying him through his contract by getting somebody else. I think the Bengals aren't really spenders. Where the Browns, to all of the faults that might have happened in the decision making, the one thing you cannot say or knock is their willingness to spend, and they want to spend because they do want to win. And I appreciate that, as from the outside looking in, you have to appreciate that, because there are owners, there are organizations, there are teams that do not want to do that. They'll do the bare minimum. Now the decisions have not gone the way of the Browns, but they are willing to do what it takes in their opinions and in their decision making to get the results. It just hasn't happened. But no, I think the Browns are in what makes them not as strong of a candidate, obviously, is just the uncertainty on that offense and the holes that need to be filled, one. And then two, just where did the Browns go in terms of fixing this culture? And Rachel, I like, to your point, it is right now, the culture doesn't feel great because look at where they're at, right? But I think that there were strides taken early on. And I think that Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski were a very strong duo to come in. I really liked the hire, and I really liked that early tenure of them together, because I do think that culture did shift. They were able to sign guys in free agency. Andrew Berry was very good at making trades. I mean, some of these guys that you signed you wouldn't have signed in free agency. People don't want to come, like people didn't want to come to Cleveland. This was, who was it? It was Jarvis. Like when he got traded here from Miami, is that he came, like they got traded here to die. These are things that were established in the culture. And I don't think that
was Odell.
Odell too. Like these are, Cleveland used to be a place where it felt like this was just the end of the road. And for a few years, that changed. And there were guys that saw the potential, saw the roster, wanted to be here. And I think that was the start of culture change that the Browns needed. Now they have to continue following through. And I think the Deshaun trade derailed the progress, obviously, in that capacity, because you take a team out, you don't have the ability to stack a roster, build a roster. You've gotten rid of your draft capital. You've given a massive hit to your cap and your spending abilities. And I think that changed so much of what was being built. And now we're talking again about the Browns not being a desirable place, but I think it's not as drastic as it could be. It's not the way that the place they were before 2020. It's regressed for sure, but I don't think it is in the same place that it was, we'll say, in 2017 and 2018. This is a different feel, but this is a pivotal moment for the organization. You have to get this right, and you have to get it right quick, because you're going to lose the buy-in. You've already started to lose the buy-in from superstars like Myles Garrett. How do you get him back on board? How do you maintain? Just because he signed that extension doesn't mean that he's going to be happy and just go through the motions while you fail. He made that request as a spark under the seat of not just coaching, but front office. Make a change. I want to win. Myles Garrett wants to win. Myles Garrett's the face of this franchise. You've got to do something to calm him down and assure him that you are making steps, not just to pass the days and the seasons by until you're back to being comfortable. You got to do it quick. And I think that it's not just in-house players. It's then, okay, how can we shape this to coaching candidates, to offensive coordinator candidates, to free agent signing candidates? How can we get the buy-in from the rookies that we're going to draft? These are things that this moment right here changes a lot for the Browns. And so it's a lot of pressure. You got to get it right, or you got to at least get it in a place where it's quickly built. It's not a giant regret. You can't keep regressing. You got to progress. It's got to be even if it's not night and day difference, if there needs to be a season or two, you've just got to show that you are moving in the right direction. And it all comes down to, it starts now.
I got a question from the audience. Robert Leader wants to know, do you want Sean McDermott in Cleveland?
I want Sean?
I take him.
I think he's a fantastic coach. Do I think Sean McDermott would have this job? No, I don't. It feels like he is not what the Browns are maybe targeting right now. I talked about like the Jim Schwartz has already got the guys bought in. I think if you go veteran without that, it's a little harder. What you want to try to get that buy-in is a young and up and comer. And I think McDermott, again, is a great coach. Would I be mad if they hired him? Absolutely not, because I think that I don't know that he should have been fired in Buffalo based off of that. But I don't think that it happens. So I don't think it's a realistic option right now. Obviously things could change, but right now it just doesn't feel like it's a thing that those paths aren't aligning.
I understand.
So I have a question. All my questions. How is the quarterback situation related to head coach? Like, if they already made their decision, is it going to be Shador next year, or they're going to draft a quarterback and then they're going to pick a head coach to work with that? Or will they hire a head coach and he'll have input into, do we keep Shador or try for one in the draft?
Well, they'll definitely hire somebody before the draft. I don't think that they'll extend that search out that long. I think we'll have something in the next few weeks, because you do want your head coach to have some kind of input as you're getting into the draft, roster needs, things that.
But that's what I mean. I'm curious if the coach will have input in that quarterback situation, or if they will tell him in the interviews, we've already decided to keep Shador, so that's going to be your quarterback.
Well, I think it'll be a mix of both. If the Browns are looking forward with Shador Sanders as a strong option as at QB1, which I think right now makes a lot of sense to do. I think that you tell the coaches, we've got Shador Sanders. This is like option one, and then we've got, obviously, here's what we've got now. Where are you thinking? Because no matter what, the Browns are going to bring in another quarterback, whether or not it's a draft addition or it's just a veteran free agent. The Browns will have 4 quarterbacks minimum at camp. Like that's every year, every team, you want to have 4 quarterbacks. You want to have 4 camp arms. Especially if you have a scenario, if, Deshaun Watson's still sidelined, you need camp arms. So at the very least, that's why Tyler Snoop Huntley has been in Cleveland for multiple seasons. Like, you bring them in. That's why Josh Rosen came in. These are their camp arms. So you can go that route. Maybe you draft somebody. I think that remains to be seen, but there will be another quarterback. And I think you'll get a better feel for what they maybe intend to do at the start of the season. Once we get to the draft, once we start to get into teams looking around and sniffing out some free agents, what the Browns do, whatever quarterback the Browns do add, because there will be one added, I think paints the picture of how they're approaching the start of the season. But I think it makes sense to start with Shador. If they like even a little bit of what they saw, I think that it is the smart thing to do, even if it is a competition in the summer, which I think it also should be, whether or not that Shador is your QB1. I think there should be some competition there and some pushing. He went through the competition this season, but without really getting those reps. So I think with first team reps and a competition, I think that continues to help his development, which is what everybody should be looking for. And Shador's looking for it for himself, but everybody who's a Shador supporter or a Browns fan should be looking for that continued development. And I think that's the most important thing for him, is to just not only get those reps, but get those reps against some adversity, which he's more than familiar with by now, but to continue that with the things that can help push him over the edge and get the most out of him. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's a great approach if the Browns take that, to see what you've got in that rookie. And then you have some other planning to do, whether or not that continues into the season. You at least create a foundation where you can get some answers in a way that truly isn't truly enlightening, not just, oh, well, he went against the scout team and he looks okay. So, I think that paints a better picture as an organization if that's the route they go.
Yeah, I think he had a big learning curve as far as NFL defenses. No offense to Colorado, but he didn't really face a lot of what he was going to end up seeing. Even Dylan Gabriel at Oregon saw some tougher defenses and had a better idea that there are a couple quarterbacks I really like in this draft, but they're easily going to be available in the second or third round. I'm really hoping they spend their first round picks on getting me a wide receiver, maybe one out of Ohio State. I actually don't care where they get me. I need a wide receiver before the third round. It would be a novel concept around here. But I completely agree. What they do in the draft as far as the quarterback position is going to tell us a lot about what to expect from next season.
Well, Cameron, I know you've given us a lot of time. If you have to go, we completely understand. I know you are one of the hardest working sports figures in Cleveland. So if you got to go, I hear somebody's phone buzzing. I'm not sure. I don't know whose phone that was going on.
That might be my kids.
Oh, okay.
God forbid they fix themselves dinner while I'm doing something, and they're in their 30s. It's not like I'm making 12-year-olds fend for themselves. They're 32 and 34, and they're texting me about dinner options. I'm like,
they're always your babies. They're always.
So, Cameron, if you want to stay, you can stay a couple minutes. But if you got to go, I understand. That's absolutely cool too.
I have a couple more minutes, I think.
Okay. All right. Cool. So Robert Litter also says that he is sure that Shador will be the quarterback of next season. Miles Garrett is a finalist for defensive MVP, and Carson Schlesinger is a finalist for the rookie the rookie award for defense. So, there are some, bright spots that the coach could look forward to coming in. But, Andrew Berry has to hit this draft as well. I think the fact that he hit the draft last year saved his job for this season, and they chose to let Kevin go. But he has to hit, and like you said, Cameron, they have to win immediately, but they have to draft well too, and that's something that hasn't been going good for them. They haven't taken a receiver, before the third round. So Anthony Schwartz, he was known as a speedy guy, but he couldn't catch the ball. That's a waste of a pick. That's a waste of an offensive weapon. You got Carnell Tate sitting up there, who's going to be drafted very early, but will he be there past? Will he be there past the fifth round? I don't know about that. But you need to get good receivers. You need to get talent here. You need to revamp your offensive line. How do you do that? You have picks 6 and 24, but you need more picks than that. So, he's definitely going to have to be smart about this, because if this new coach has to come in and win fast, you got to give him players that you can win fast with.
Yeah, I think I'll say this to the draft. It's you look at it and you're like, I don't know, it hasn't, like, so many of their draft picks haven't worked out. But then I also have to think the first year was probably, I would say, maybe the worst for Andrew Berry. And it's not even, Jedrick Wills was a bust here. And that's unfortunate. That's what you use your first round pick on. And Tristan Wirfs is there. And I'll never let that go, because I wanted Tristan Wirfs. I wanted them to take him so bad. And
wanted him so bad.
And I'm like, and then you give Jedrick Wills a chance, and it just didn't work out. And now he's on sabbatical from the NFL. I think he'll be back, and maybe he'll be good. Maybe he needed that time, but then you get Grant Delpit. I think that was a great draft pick. But then everyone else kind of like fizzled out in that draft. But then in 2021, I think that was minus the third round pick on Anthony Schwartz. That was, obviously, we know how that played out. But to get Greg Newsome and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, and where I thought Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is going to be a first round pick, and for him to fall into the second round and the Browns to be able to get both of them, I thought was an incredible move by Andrew Berry. I thought that was a really great draft, start of the draft for him. But then, after that, like he's had good draft picks. I think MJ Emerson was a good pick. Injuries have not been fair to him, and kind of made that a question. But getting Alex Wright, I think that's a huge draft after that. But then we're in the territory of the Deshaun Watson trade, and you're losing first round picks because you've given them all to the Texans, and you don't have that. So now you are starting your draft, and you're looking for talent that really has to play now, especially when the offense struggled the way that it has. They have to play now, but you're asking them to be play now, ready now guys in the third round, fourth round, fifth round. That's where you're starting. You're starting so low in the draft. And so this season was the first year that Andrew Berry has had those draft picks back, to those early day one draft picks. And look what happened with this draft. I think Mason Graham is maybe an underrated, because it wasn't flashy, and he hasn't been flashy all year, but his addition next to Malik Collins as well, I will say that defensive tackle, that interior defensive line was just totally revamped, and that helped lead Myles Garrett to breaking the NFL sack record. Without those contributions on the inside, I don't know how many sacks Myles gets, especially with the minimal pass attempts against that defense. He did that in an incredible fashion. And so I think now this draft makes me feel better about it, because it's the first time in years that the Browns have had that first round pick with Andrew Berry. And so I'm less nervous about it. And I tend to use that against him in my decision making of my opinions, the drafting for the past few years, because of the location that they were drafting. I think that played a lot into where this roster is, and those draft picks being maybe misses, not living up to where they need to, because any draft, whether you're drafting in the first or the seventh round, it's a gamble, and you're not going to hit on everybody, but it's much harder to hit on a player that you want to be a day one starter if you're taking them in the third, the fourth, the fifth, sixth round and looking for them to be talent that can just step in. Those are guys that probably need a little bit of work, little bit of development. And so I think it was really promising this year. I think it's not just the production of the rookies that led to Andrew Berry's job being secured. It's the fact that I think he showed with those early picks that he can pick players that have that. And now he's got to double down and do it again this year.
All right, I got a question. You mentioned his name, JOK. Is he ever playing football ever again?
Oh, it's so hard to know. It's so hard. He looked great when he came in and smashed the guitar. It was good to see him in good spirits. It's a serious injury. The neck injury, it's not a joke. And there are risks with any kind of neck injury like that of, okay, if it were to happen again, what could happen? And Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, as we know, I've done stories about it. He is a very health-oriented, holistic guy, and he will approach all of his decisions when it comes to his health, his mind, his body, his spirit, all of those things. He'll approach it with a holistic approach first and foremost. That's what he will always do. And I think that those second opinions he's getting, those are from the sources that he trusts in the way that he likes to handle his health. And so that will be a determining factor. And that's why it's so hard to say, could he play? I'm sure. Like he's up, he's moving, he's good. And that's really great. But would it be a long-term thing? And will the people that he leans on with his health push him to get back and tell him it's okay, clear him to return? I think that is what we'll have to see if he feels that it is in his best interest as a person first, not a player. And then that decision will be made. So it's hard to say.
Don't cry, Rachel.
I'm just like, he better put some pins in that neck and stop doing yoga and get back out in that field.
It's a risk reward, right? And if there are worst case scenarios where he gets hit the wrong way and doesn't ever get up off the ground. So as much as I loved him as a player and everything I've read about him as a person just says he would be like a cool dude to hang out with, I will never question his decision to not play until, or maybe ever, but there may come a day, to your point, where he is advised and he thinks it's safe. Rachel, we said the same thing about Baker Mayfield and a few other people who played hurt and ruined our seasons. They could have just taken 3 weeks off. If Baker would have just let Cade start against the Ravens, that 3 years ago would have been fine. Too many of these guys play hurt and they get too injured. They aggravate the injury. It makes it worse. They're out longer and they're a detriment to that team. If JOK needs to he can take all the time that he wants. I've seen him. He's still in great shape. Wouldn't take him 2 weeks to be ready to put on pads and get on the field again.
All the time he won't. Well, I don't want to keep hoping, wishing, and praying that he going to get out in that field and he not. Just retire. Just do me a favor.
Just retire? Will that make you happy if he retire? We've moved on. Like, we can still see him in the rear view. He's still there, but I
never move on.
We've got other people playing.
I'll say this. He loves that team. So it wouldn't be for a lack of, letting these guys down. It will truly be an introspective decision. And I think that's why it's so hard to know right now. But he loves the guys on this team. He wants to win with the guys on the team. And that's like, you want that. That's what you're looking for. Like, he hasn't lost the passion for the Browns. It's not that. It's
if he comes back to play, he would play in Cleveland. He wouldn't play for some other team. Like, he still likes us and wants to hang out with us.
He still likes Cleveland.
Okay. Rachel, I'm sorry. You can't. You have to respect him. He's got a.
I mean, I get that, but he ain't played in more than a year now. So, I got to know something. Just don't ghost me, as far as his playing status. You know what I'm saying? The Browns have not handled injuries very well.
You're so nosy.
You're damn right, I'm nosy.
It's your business. I want to know everything.
I want to know everything. We got 6 minutes left on the Cavs right quick. Cameron, you got time? 6 minutes? Yeah. All right. So right now, the Cleveland Cavaliers I don't know what is going on.
They're dead to me.
Well, dang, Kate, you kind of hard.
I keep getting emotionally invested. I can't.
Because when Max Drews come back, is not going to help the problem. I don't see that taking place. What did you say, Cameron?
It feels bigger than
that.
Yeah,
it feels bigger than that. Oh, dang, I forgot to mention Kevin and Baker Mayfield. Baker sending out texts and stuff like that. He's a piece of work. Baker's funny, though, to me.
Baker will hold a grudge. Will hold a grudge.
Yeah.
He's still a child. A very talented child, but he is still a child. It's okay.
Yeah, but injuries with the Cavs. Darius is out again. That's not something that's very good. They got rocked by the OKC. I would have thought that kind of would have been a good measure and stick to see where they're at now. But they got rocked. I was in IU thinking I was hanging out with kids, so I missed that game, and unfortunately they lost very bad. Was it on national TV? Was it a national television game?
That was an NBC game.
Yeah, and you thought the team had made some progress when Sam Merrill came back, but they didn't. They're up and down team every other game. And yesterday, I guess this rivalry week in basketball, and somehow the Charlotte Hornets were our rivals. So
noted rivalry, Cavaliers.
Right, yeah. So I'm like, okay, I don't know anything about that. I'd have thought it'd be another team like in our division, but it wasn't.
Boston or the Bulls, or I still got beef with the Bulls with those comments Joakim Noah used to make about us. I still got beef from the Bulls. Anyway.
Yeah, so Hornets. LeBron's coming into town next Wednesday, so that could go.
I don't have beef with LeBron.
Huh?
More power to him. I don't have beef with LeBron. More power to him. Go enjoy your life.
And then they go.
I got my championship 10 years ago. We'll be having a party in June to celebrate the 10-year anniversary. On June 20th, in case you were marking your calendars. I can't take the hot and cold. I can't take the idea that this team seems to have mentally that they can do whatever they want for 3.5 quarters and then flip a switch for the last 7 or 8 minutes of the game, and that'll be enough to win all of them. Because they do it just enough to keep convincing themselves that it'll work every day. And that's not going to get them through the first round of the playoffs.
That's the biggest fear is, I mean, we saw it last year.
Yeah.
Where at the end of the season, they said, regular season doesn't matter. You win 60 plus games and you still get bounced in the playoffs. Like the regular season doesn't matter the way we can't just bank on regular season success. I think that might have been taken a little too far because now it feels like, okay, yes, the regular season doesn't technically matter, but you've got to establish some kind of identity here. You've got to be able to go into the playoffs with some continuity and some consistency in your play because the flip switch doesn't happen in regular season consistently, let alone when teams are in playoff mode. It's way too hard. And so I think that they're getting into dangerous territory going into like we're pushing towards all-star break and there's still not consistency. There's still not a real sense of identity of what they're doing defensively, how they're selecting shots on offense, just kind of jacking up threes here and there. And injuries play into it, but it's more than that. And that's why I feel like it's a little deeper than just Max Strus coming back or Darius Garland not being injured. I think they've got to find a way to really stamp their identity into this team now so they can ride that into the playoffs because they don't feel like they have one, where last year you kind of felt what they were doing. You knew what they were going to do, how they were going to navigate, what guys did what. And now it's just kind of all over the place, night in and night out.
Yeah, I feel like last year Kenny got outcoached in the playoffs because he tried to coach the playoffs the way he did the regular season and keep them under, 35 minutes and all that. You have to let it all hang out in the playoffs. And so I'm like, okay, he's going to learn some lessons. He'll coach a little differently this year. Now I'm worried about whether or not we're even going to make the playoffs.
And that's the thing. But with this playoffs,
you can't flip the switch if there's no room.
Yeah.
At the end, like if you're not even there,
and then you'll get bounced out, in the first round, maybe.
And
so
I said it last year. I'll say it again. Jared Allen is too soft. He's a very nice young man. He is too soft in the paint. We don't have any single person on our team that somebody's afraid of. People have no problem going up against any of us. I would like somebody that they're a little afraid of.
In there. Give Thomas Bryant some minutes. He's their enforcer.
Yes, he needs more minutes. I do not disagree with that at all. Jared is just too soft. There's nobody's afraid of us. Nobody's afraid of playing here or playing us on their court. And you need a little bit of that. You need to. We have enough teams that are living rent free in our heads. Hello, Knicks, and now Indiana. That you need to be living rent free in somebody else's head, and they're just not. Because you're right, they don't have an identity, so nobody's afraid of us.
Well, Cameron, I want to thank you so much for coming on today. You always, have an invitation to come on with us. I appreciate you giving us the whole show time. I just said 20 minutes, but I'm eternally grateful for you giving us all this time. And hopefully you and Kate can link up at the combine. Kate had me there hustling hard. Oh my God, it was so much fun.
I took Rachel one year. I said, you don't understand how many steps you're going to get in because you're running and running. It's nice because it's all indoors. Indiana's got a very great location for that. So at least you can avoid the rain, but it's a lot of running around.
Remember, we had to walk that long walk to Lucas Oil Stadium. That was long.
That's a long
outside.
Walk.
Oh yeah, no, and it's cold. It gets cold.
Yeah, it was really cold, but we had a great time. I'm so grateful for that experience. So hopefully you guys can link up there if you guys don't see each other before that. But Cameron, how can our audience get at you on social media and stuff like that?
At Cami Justice, CAMI, on all the platforms. And then all my work is kind of there, spread out across platforms, depending on what it is. And then obviously everything is on news5cleveland.com and on News 5 Cleveland. Watch it on TV. Turn the news on again.
I watch the news. I watch you on the news. I read your stuff. I've followed you on Twitter forever. So I'm super excited that I finally got a chance to talk to you. So
yeah,
I probably talked more than I should have. Rachel's probably going to yell at me for hogging all the time with you, but I was so excited you were going to be on.
Listen, anytime, you just call, give me, Rachel, shoot me a text. Let me know. I'll happily join anytime you need.
All right. Will I be seeing you tomorrow night?
You will be seeing me tomorrow night.
All right. Sounds good. Well, you've been listening to Her in the Huddle on WOVU 95.9 FM. We are out of here.